The sun hung low over the Sahel, a molten orb casting long shadows across the cracked, red earth of Burkina Faso's northern frontier. Dust swirled in the air, kicked up by the wind that howled through the sparse acacia trees, whispering tales of rebellion and resolve. In the heart of Ouagadougou, the capital city, a crowd had gathered in the central square, their voices a low hum of anticipation, their eyes fixed on the raised platform where Captain Ibrahim Traoré, the young, steely-eyed leader of Burkina Faso, stood with his arms crossed, his military fatigues pristine despite the heat. At 37, he was a figure of myth and might, a man who had seized power in a coup in 2022, not for personal gain, but to wrest his nation from the grip of foreign influence and internal decay. His speeches, fiery and unapologetic, had ignited a Pan-Africanist fervor, earning him both adoration and enemies. Today, the square was alive with tension, not because of a speech, but because of a challenge, a brazen, reckless challenge that had spread like wildfire through the city's dusty streets. 5 bikers, notorious outlaws known as the Iron Vipers, had roared into Ouagadougou that morning, their motorcycles gleaming under the sun, their leather jackets emblazoned with a coiled snake. They had come to confront Traoré, to test the man who dared to defy empires, to see if his courage matched his words. The crowd parted as the Vipers dismounted, their boots thudding against the ground, their faces obscured by tinted visors. They were led by a towering figure known only as Malik, a man whose reputation for violence preceded him like a storm cloud. Whispers rippled through the crowd. Malik had once single-handedly taken down a rival gang in Mali, leaving a trail of broken bodies in his wake. His crew, 4 equally menacing figures named Zara, Kofi, Amara, and Idris, stood behind him, their eyes scanning the crowd with predatory intent. The challenge was simple, delivered in a guttural shout by Malik as he stepped forward, his voice cutting through the murmurs like a blade. Ibrahim Traoré, you claim to be the savior of this land, but you're just a boy playing soldier. Face us, 5 against 1, in a trial of strength and will. 60 seconds. If you stand, we bow. If you fall, this city sees you for what you are, a fraud. The crowd gasped, a collective intake of breath that seemed to suck the air from the square. Traoré's guards, armed and alert, tensed, their hands hovering over their rifles, but Traoré raised a hand, silencing them. His face, chiseled and unyielding, broke into a small, almost amused smile. 60 seconds, he said, his voice calm but carrying the weight of 1,000 promises. I'll give you 30. The crowd erupted, cheers and jeers mingling in a chaotic symphony. This was no ordinary day in Ouagadougou, this was a spectacle, a clash of titans, and the people were hungry for it. Malik laughed, a low, menacing sound, and gestured to his crew. You hear that? The captain thinks he's untouchable. Let's see how he fares against the Viper's venom. The rules were set, a bare-knuckle brawl, 5 against 1, in the center of the square. No weapons, no tricks, just raw power and resilience. The crowd formed a loose circle, their phones raised, capturing every moment for the world to see. Traoré stepped down from the platform, his movements deliberate, his eyes locked on Malik. The Vipers spread out, forming a semicircle around him, their stances low and ready. Zara, the only woman among them, cracked her knuckles, her braided hair swaying as she moved. Kofi, lean and wiry, grinned, revealing a gold tooth that glinted in the sun. Amara, broad-shouldered and silent, flexed his massive hands, while Idris, the smallest but known for his speed, bounced on his toes, eager for the fight. Traoré stood alone, his posture relaxed, almost casual, but there was a fire in his eyes, a burning resolve that seemed to radiate from him, warming the air around him. The crowd fell silent as a local elder, draped in traditional robes, stepped forward to signal the start. 60 seconds, he shouted, raising a hand. Begin! The Vipers moved as one, a coordinated assault designed to overwhelm. Malik lunged first, his fist aimed at Traoré's jaw, a strike meant to end the fight before it began. But Traoré was faster, sidestepping with the grace of a panther, his own fist connecting with Malik's ribs in a blur. The crowd roared as Malik staggered, surprise flashing across his face. Zara came next, her kick swift and precise, targeting Traoré's legs, but he caught her ankle midair, twisting just enough to throw her off balance. Kofi and Idris attacked together, a flurry of punches that Traoré parried with forearms like iron, his movements a dance of defiance. Amara charged, a human battering ram, but Traoré dropped low, sweeping the giant's legs from under him, sending him crashing to the ground. The seconds ticked by, each moment a testament to Traoré's skill and courage. He was outnumbered, outmatched in size, but not in spirit. The crowd chanted his name, their voices a rising tide, fueling his every move. Malik recovered, his face twisted with rage, and signaled for the Vipers to tighten their circle. Finish him, he bellowed, and the 5 closed in, their attacks relentless. Traoré took a hit to the shoulder, another to the chest, but he stood firm, his eyes never leaving his opponents. With a sudden burst of energy, he drove his elbow into Idris's jaw, sending the smaller man sprawling. Zara screamed, launching herself at Traoré, but he caught her in a grapple, using her momentum to fling her into Kofi, who stumbled backward. Amara rose, roaring, but Traoré met him head-on, their fists colliding in a bone-jarring clash. The crowd counted down, their voices a thunderous chorus, 10, 9, 8. Malik, desperate, grabbed a handful of dirt and threw it at Traoré's face, a cheap move that drew boos from the crowd. But Traoré, blinking through the dust, only smiled wider, his resolve unshaken. With a final, explosive move, he spun, delivering a roundhouse kick that caught Malik square in the chest, sending him crashing to the ground just as the elder shouted, time. The square erupted, a sea of cheers and applause. Traoré stood, breathing hard, his face bruised but unbowed. The Vipers lay scattered, groaning, their challenge shattered in 60 seconds. The crowd surged forward, some rushing to lift Traoré onto their shoulders, others recording the moment, their videos destined to flood the internet. Malik, struggling to his feet, met Traoré's gaze, and for a moment, something passed between them, not respect, not yet, but an acknowledgement of power. "You're no fraud," Malik muttered, spitting blood into the dust. Traoré nodded, his expression unreadable, and turned to the crowd. "This is our land," he said, his voice rising above the chaos. "We fight for it, not because we want to, but because we must. Let this be a lesson to those who think they can break us." The crowd roared again, their pride palpable, their faith in their leader renewed. But as Traoré stepped back onto the platform, his guards flanking him, a shadow crossed his face. He knew this was no simple street fight. The Vipers were not just outlaws, they were a message, a test sent by those who feared his growing influence. Somewhere, in the corridors of power far beyond Burkina Faso's borders, men and women in suits were watching, plotting, their hands itching to crush the spark of revolution he had ignited. The videos of the fight, already going viral, would reach them too, and Traoré knew they would not sit idly by. He turned to his closest aide, Lieutenant Sanaa, a wiry man with a scar across his cheek, and whispered, "Find out who sent them." "This isn't over." Sanaa nodded, slipping into the crowd as Traoré addressed the people once more, his words a call to arms, a promise of a future free from foreign chains. "Burkina Faso will rise," he declared, "not because of me, but because of you. Stand with me, fight with me, and together we will build a nation that boasts to no one." The crowd's cheers were deafening, but Traoré's mind was already racing, piecing together the puzzle of the Vipers' sudden appearance. Who had funded their journey? Who had whispered in Malik's ear, promising riches or power? The answers lay beyond the square, in the shadows of a world that saw Traoré as a threat, not a hero. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of fire and blood, Traoré stepped down, his heart heavy with the weight of leadership, but burning with the fire of defiance. The fight had been won, but the war was just beginning. The videos of the brawl spread like wildfire across YouTube, X, and every corner of the internet, each clip amassing millions of views. Channels covering African politics, street fights, and Pan-Africanist movements picked up the story, their comment sections buzzing with awe and debate. "This is why Traoré is a legend," one user wrote. "Subscribe to our channel for more updates on Africa's unstoppable leader," another urged, their call echoed by dozens of others. The footage was raw, unfiltered, a testament to the power of a single man against impossible odds. But beneath the surface, questions lingered. Who were the Vipers, really? And why had they targeted Traoré? The answers would come, but not today. For now, the people of Ouagadougou celebrated, their voices carrying into the night, a song of resistance and hope. And somewhere, in a dimly lit room far from the Sahel, a man watched the footage, his fingers drumming on a desk, his mind calculating the next move in a game Traoré didn't yet know he was playing. The stage was set, the players in motion, and the world was watching. The night was thick with the scent of dust and diesel, the streets of Ouagadougou alive with the hum of a city that refused to sleep. The victory in the square had electrified the capital, but for Ibrahim Traoré, the celebration was a fleeting distraction. He sat in a modest office in the presidential palace, the walls adorned with maps of Burkina Faso and portraits of Thomas Sankara, the revolutionary leader whose legacy Traoré carried like a mantle. His desk was cluttered with reports, security briefings, economic projections, and a grainy photograph of the Iron Vipers, their faces now known to his intelligence network. Lieutenant Sanaa stood before him, his scar glowing faintly under the fluorescent light, his voice low and urgent. "They were hired, Captain," Sanaa said, sliding a folder across the desk. "The Vipers didn't come to Ouagadougou on a whim. Someone paid them, someone with deep pockets and deeper motives." Traoré leaned back, his fingers steepled, his eyes narrowing as he scanned the documents. Bank transfers traced to a shell company in Europe, coded messages intercepted from a burner phone, and a name that kept surfacing, Colonel Marcel Dubois, a French mercenary with ties to private security firms and, more troublingly, to certain Western governments. Dubois was a ghost, a man who operated in the shadows, orchestrating chaos for profit. Traoré's mind raced, connecting the dots. The Vipers were a pawn, a loud, brash distraction meant to humiliate him, to chip away at his aura of invincibility. But why? And who stood to gain? The answer lay in Burkina Faso's gold, the lifeblood of its economy, which Traoré had nationalized, cutting off the flow of unrefined ore to foreign markets. The new gold refinery, set to process 150 tons annually, was a bold move, one that had earned him cheers from the people but enemies abroad. "They want to break us," Traoré said, his voice a low growl. "They want our gold, our land, our soul. But they'll have to do better than a pack of hired thugs." Sanaa nodded, his face grim. "There's more, Captain. Our sources in Bamako say Dubois is assembling a team, mercenaries, ex-special forces, men who don't ask questions. They're planning something bigger." The Vipers were just the opening act. Traoré stood, pacing the room, his boots echoing on the tiled floor. The weight of leadership pressed against him, but he thrived under it, his mind sharp, his resolve unbreakable. "Then we move first," he said. "Find Dubois. Bring me everything, his contacts, his plans, his weaknesses. And get me Malik." He knows more than he's letting on. The hunt for Malik and the truth behind the Vipers led Traoré's team to the outskirts of Ouagadougou, where the city gave way to sprawling shantytowns and dusty roads. Malik, nursing his wounds, had gone to ground in a ramshackle bar frequented by smugglers and outcasts. Traoré, against Sanaa's protests, insisted on going himself, disguised in a worn jacket and a cap pulled low over his eyes. The bar was a den of shadows, lit by flickering bulbs and filled with the stench of cheap liquor and sweat. Malik sat in a corner, his arm in a sling, his eyes darting nervously as he sipped a beer. Traoré approached, his presence commanding even in disguise, and slid into the seat opposite. "You fought well," Traoré said, his tone neutral but laced with steel. Malik froze, his hand tightening around the bottle. "Didn't expect to see you here, Captain," he said, his voice hoarse. "Thought you'd send your dogs." Traoré leaned forward, his eyes boring into Malik's. "I don't hide behind others. You challenged me, and I answered. Now you answer me. Who sent you?" Malik hesitated, his gaze flickering to the door, but Traoré's hand shot out, grabbing his wrist. "Don't," Traoré warned. "You're not fast enough." Malik sighed, defeated, and began to talk. He spoke of a man in a suit, a foreigner who met him in Niamey, offering a fortune to test Traoré. The orders were clear: make it public, make it brutal, make it a spectacle. The money came through anonymous accounts, but Malik had overheard a name: Dubois. "He said you're a problem," Malik admitted. "A problem that needs solving." Traoré released him, his mind already planning the next move. "You're not my enemy, Malik," he said. "But you chose the wrong side. Help me find Dubois, and you might live long enough to regret it." Malik nodded, his bravado gone, replaced by a grudging respect. The trail led to a remote airstrip in the north, where Dubois was reportedly preparing to receive a shipment of weapons enough to arm a small army. Traoré mobilized a strike team, a mix of loyal soldiers and former insurgents who had sworn allegiance to his vision. They moved under cover of darkness, their vehicles cutting through the desert like ghosts. The airstrip was a desolate stretch of sand, lit by the faint glow of a single runway light. Dubois's men were there, unloading crates from a cargo plane, their movements hurried. Traoré watched from a ridge, his binoculars revealing the scale of the operation. This was no mere provocation, this was a prelude to war. "We hit them now," he told Sanaa, his voice steady. "No mercy." The strike was swift and brutal, Traoré leading the charge, his rifle barking as he took down 2 guards before they could react. His team moved with precision, overwhelming Dubois's mercenaries, who were caught off guard. The crates, filled with rifles, grenades, and drones, were seized, but Dubois was nowhere to be found. A captured mercenary, bloodied and terrified, revealed the truth: Dubois had never been there. He was in Paris, orchestrating the operation from a safe distance, his clients a shadowy coalition of corporate interests and foreign agents who saw Traoré's reforms as a threat to their profits. The mercenaries' words confirmed Traoré's fears: the fight was not just against men like Dubois, but against a system that thrived on Africa's exploitation. As dawn broke, Traoré stood among the captured weapons, his team securing the airstrip. The victory was significant, but it was only a skirmish in a larger battle. He knew Dubois would strike again, and next time, it wouldn't be through proxies like the Vipers back in Ouagadougou. Traoré addressed the nation, his speech broadcast live across radio, television, and the internet. He stood on the same platform where he had faced the Vipers, his voice resonant with conviction. "They send their dogs to test us," he said, "but we are not a nation that kneels. They want our gold, our land, our future, but I say to them, come and take it, if you dare." The crowd roared, their fists raised, their pride a living thing. Traoré spoke of the airstrip raid, of the weapons meant to destabilize their country, and of the enemies who hid behind wealth and power. "We are building a Burkina Faso that answers to its people, not to foreign masters," he declared. "But we cannot do it alone. Every one of you is a soldier in this fight. Stand with me, believe in me, and together we will make history." The speech went viral, clips shared across YouTube, X, and beyond, each one tagged with calls to action. Subscribe to our channel for more on Traoré's revolution. Join the movement, follow the fight. The world was watching, some with admiration, others with fear. In Paris, Dubois watched too, his face a mask of cold calculation. He knew Traoré was no ordinary opponent, but he also knew the game was far from over. For Traoré, the fight was personal now, not just for Burkina Faso, but for the soul of a continent. As he stepped down from the platform, his eyes scanned the horizon, searching for the next threat. The Vipers had been a warning, the airstrip a battle, but the war was coming, and Traoré was ready. The people of Burkina Faso, and millions beyond, were ready too, their voices echoing in the digital ether, urging others to join the cause. If this story of courage and defiance has you on the edge of your seat, hit that subscribe button on our channel. Stay tuned for more tales of revolution, resilience, and the unbreakable spirit of a nation fighting for its future.